If you've ever used the antenna off of your radio to scratch your nose, go and hit that subscribe button. If you've ever scratched your nose in some disgusting way in public, it's close enough. Subscribe as well, like, comment. That stuff helps me out. If you're looking to support the channel, of course, t-shirts, belts, we're doing releases every Thursday now, about 150 or so belts per week. They go quick, so buy them when you get the chance. Ammunition, free munitions, it's what I shoot. They give you guys a sick discount code, Garand, gives you 5% off. Pretty nice of them, pretty cool. They support the channel, so go in there, get ammo, and get some training. So, about a year ago, I did a video on combat pants, and it was pretty well received. A lot of people watched it, and I've decided it's about time to do another video on combat pants and talk about some of the differences that we see now, some of the changes in my philosophy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's talk about that. So first off, combat pants. Why would you buy a combat pant as opposed to like a regular pant? Like what's the difference now? You know, why does everything have to be, specific to a pant type? Well, that's a good question. So combat pants are designed to be typically slim, usually a little bit more form-fitting so that they don't snag on crap. It depends on the brand. They're designed to have pockets to facilitate carrying different types of gear and usually some type of knee protection. So when you're taking a knee and taking cover and all that type of stuff, you're not jacking up your knees. So I've had the chance to try all these out in the field. And I thought I would give you some of my thoughts on some of the products that I've used up to this point. So first off, the first product that we're going to talk about is a classic, which is going to be the Crye Precision Pant. So these have been used for a long time by various people all throughout the world, and a lot of people have died from dudes wearing these pants. So why would you choose the Crye pants? Well, they're kind of the guys who set the stage for combat pants. So let's talk about a couple of the features that they designed and came up with and how that's kind of become the pretty much status quo for all combat pants that are currently made by other companies. So first off, big thing that usually sets these apart are knee pads. So these have pockets that you can put external knee pads in them. Now there are a couple problems with doing external knee pads. They are held in with Velcro. Because of that, there is a possibility that as you walk by branches and that type of thing, that they can get snagged and get torn out. So that's always kind of a nuisance to some extent or another. But they typically work really well. Now, if for whatever reason those knee pads are snagging a lot, what you can also do is you can tuck the knee pads behind the fabric, and that way there's less chance of them coming out. It's a little, doesn't look quite as cool, but at the same time, it's just something that you can possibly do if you're in a thicker environment and that type of thing. Now, with knee pads, everybody's a little bit different as far as their height of their body and how high their waist is and all that type of thing. So what Crye did was they added in an adjustment system. So when you go in through the pocket right here at the front, you can adjust the height of the knee pad. So when you go in through the pocket, you can adjust the height of the knee pad. Another thing you can do is that they have these little retainer straps that go around the back of your knee, and that way it keeps it in place. So with all those together, you can get the correct knee height. Because otherwise, if you have a adjustable one, then the knee pad placement might not be ideal, and you might take a knee onto a rock, and it might be kind of painful, and it's a bad day. You don't want that to happen to yourself. So that's what it comes to when it comes to the knee pad placement. A couple other things that you typically see with Crye combat pants and combat pants nowadays are these front pockets. Typically used for dip and Right in the Rain notebooks. Honestly though, it's used to carry a variety of different types of gear. And then of course, cargo pockets on the side. A couple other things that Crye pants did is they added in stretch panels where the knees bend. That way you're getting less rips. I think this is a pretty good idea, and this is what a lot of combat pants are doing nowadays. On the back, Crye also added a relief pad right here at the back so that when you're bending over and that type of thing, you're not ripping at the back. So those are some of the typical features that you're seeing from combat pants here. What Crye has done, now these are the Gen 2/ACs. Crye has since come out with Gen 3 and Gen 4. Now, so Gen 4s just came out, so I don't have any Gen 4s. But we can talk a little bit about Gen 3s, which I have a lot of time on. So with the Gen 3s, kind of the main change that people typically see is that the stretch material is no longer that tan material, it's now multicam. That's due to advances in fabric design and that type of thing. I found that the stretchy material in the Gen 3s to be a little bit better. I think that the Gen 3s are an improvement, even though some people don't like them. Some major improvement areas that you see with the Gen 3s is going to be your little knife pocket that goes in your cargo pocket, and that way you can have your knife stored away. Of course, the waist, just like the ACs, is adjustable, besides with the belts, so you can kind of get that nice tight fit, so it can really fit around your butt, and that's important to look good in combat. One thing that a lot of people don't like about the Crye combat pants is that they use Velcro and a zipper. The zipper can break. It's not as good as buttons in my opinion. It still works, but that's kind of up to you. With Gen 3s, they also repositioned where the knee pad adjustment was. So instead of being in the front pocket, it's now on the dip pocket. That allows, when you pull these up, for it to be more up and down as opposed to kind of off to the side like it was with the Crye ACs. That allows for generally a better fit. So that's why a lot of people are moving over to the Gen 3s. Now, the Gen 4s, of course, have made far more improvements. Unfortunately, I've not had enough time on them, nor do I have a pair to show you guys, but possibly in a year or so when we've had some significant time to really vet the design and the product and that type of thing. But those are your typical Crye pants and what you're seeing. Now, with both of those, they're made from Nyko, so that's a no melt, no drip type material. But if you're in some type of job or career field where you require some type of flame retardant specific fabric, you can do no better than Drifire. So Drifire has made a couple different combat pants. One of my favorite types of combat pants that they make are the Cryfires. It's essentially a Crye Precision Gen 3 combat pant, but made with Drifire material. Now, they are kind of hard to get your hands on, but if you're the type of guy who needs that type of protection, you can do no better. So these are essentially the same cut as the Crye Gen 3s. So a couple things that come with that is you have stretch material at the crotch. I think that's probably one of the best things that they did, because those are areas that tend to blow out when you're in the field, and there's nothing worse than having a blowout on your crotch and your dick hangs out. We don't want that. That's no good. So with these, you can see that the stretch material is not the same camouflage pattern. It's just a type of brown-green material. So again, if that really bothers you, it's not that big of a deal. But anyhow, the biggest change that we have here is that this material is, of course, made with the Drifire fabric. So a couple notes here. First off, this one's super faded. I've used this for a long time. But the Drifire material is really cool. It's a little bit heavier than the typical Nyko kind of ripstop material that you have. But at the same time, it's a little bit more abrasion resistant. It's a little bit more abrasion resistant. It doesn't tear as easily, and it also feels super comfortable. It almost feels like a really well broken in pair of jeans. So it's pretty awesome there. Now, one problem with it is that when it gets wet, it tends to be a little bit heavier than the Nyko. Also, it's a lot hotter, so it tends to retain that heat a little bit more, and that's kind of a pain sometimes. So you need to figure out if this is a type of combat pant that you need based on what I've said, because everybody doesn't need flame retardant specific material. People went a little crazy with that, 2009 now. No doubt, some people definitely need it, so don't start a huge war over this, but just figure out if you need that type of property in your pants or not. If not, don't worry about it too much. So anyhow, that is the Drifire / Crye combat pants, and they are pretty sick. So with both those companies, they make a great product. Huge fan of them. They've kind of paved the way. But the Cryes are kind of hard to get your hands on, and the Drifires are especially really hard to get your hands on. So what we're going to talk about next is a product that is a little bit easier to get your hands on, and I think is much kind of underappreciated in the community, and that's going to be Beyond Clothing, the A9 Special Mission Pant. So we're going to pull that up. Now, with the A9 Special Mission Pant, they can come in multicam or woodland or whatever. Now, my particular pair of pants comes in woodland. Now, I haven't had as much time on this particular pair as I have had with other issued pieces of clothing that I've gotten, but I had enough time on these to pretty much say what I like about them compared to the Cryes. So one thing that I really like about the Beyond Clothing is that the stretch material is a little bit more tough than the material that's typically used in both the Drifire and the Crye pants. Because of that, there's less chance of it ripping or getting worn through over time. So I find that it just has worked a little bit better. One thing that I also really like about the Beyond Clothing is that they use buttons as opposed to zippers. So those are much easier to repair in the field. So that is a much welcomed addition to these combat pants. The thing that people immediately notice with these pants is that there are no external knee pads. The knee pads are internal. So Crye field pants use internal knee pads like the Crye Airflex, and those fit inside these Beyond Clothing ones. Now, some people prefer to have the external, but I found that the internal work just as well, so I'm a big fan of them. What I also like is that because they kind of did the cut of the Beyond a little bit different than what you typically would see in a Crye, specifically how they designed the waist, they have no relief panel at the back. Now, some people get kind of tied up with that, but I've found that it's not needed due to the way that they cut the waist, which is a little bit more low cut. Big fan of it. On these, you also adjust the knee pads through the front dip pocket, which is of course pretty sick. Again, these are built very similar to the Cryes, but with some very specific alterations, specifically to the cut. They're a little bit slimmer compared to the Cryes. Because of this, I find that they work better in the field and they tend to last a lot longer. So when it comes to the Beyond, I think that the Beyond A9 Mission clothing is perhaps one of the most underappreciated combat pants that is currently on the market. If you can get your hands on some, or if you're looking to get some, or your unit is looking to get a new type of combat pant, I would highly recommend Beyond clothing again, because I don't think that there's anything quite as innovative or as well cut currently on the market. So those are my thoughts on the Beyond. Now, another really cool Beyond product is the all-weather pant, which we'll talk about later, not in this video, but that is a pretty sick design as well. They make some great stuff. So one pair of combat pants that everybody has been asking me to review is going to be the UF Pro Pants Striker HT Combat Pant. Now they have a couple different types of combat pants, but this is the one that I was sent to review. So it's made for hot weather for the most part. Now, it's a pretty cool pair of combat pants. There are some problems there that keep it from being the best, in my opinion. So first off, you have your stretch panels on the back. Again, these are well cut. You have your stretch panels, the crotch, and all around, pretty much at all the areas that you'd want it. Right above the knee pads, they do a great job. These knee pads are kind of a weird hybrid design. They have multiple layers, so you can kind of figure out how much layering you want in there, and they work extremely well. The UF Pros also use zippers as opposed to using Velcro. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, Velcro is easy to repair in the field, but still, they are noisy. So when it comes to zippers, it's a lot more quieter to get stuff out of your pants, when you need to get to that type of equipment. So I do think that it's kind of, you got to figure out what you need, specifically what you're doing, because there's not kind of a, one solution to everything. Velcro, easier to repair, probably a little bit more tough to use in the field. At the same time, zippers are very quiet to use comparatively, so just figure out what's going to work best for you. So what's cool about the HTs is that they have zippers right above the crotch. What this does is you can unzip these and allow that breeze to get through there, and no matter what type of combat pant you have, they're going to get a little bit hot, and that it feels so good to have those opened up and allow that breeze to kind of get through there. I've done it multiple times. Huge fan of it. They did a really good job with that. Also, there are multiple layers that you can put into here. So there's also a small little wind insert that you can put in so that you can keep yourself from getting super cold. So it is very versatile. Has stretch panels on the side right here. Again, they did a really good job when it came to designing this pant. The biggest problem with the UF Pro pants, and I wish I'm hoping they're going to change this in the future, is that the knee pad height is not adjustable. Further, there's no type of Velcro adjustment to cinch that down and get that tight to your leg. So because of that, you kind of look like that weird goth kid, in high school, where he wore like the weird pants with all the zippers on them. That's exactly what you look like, and that's exactly what a crow said to me when I was in field and he saw me. Hurt my feelings first off, but second off, they really need to design something so that you can adjust the height, because without that height adjustment, you can't get these to line up perfectly, and it's just fallen short of what I would consider to be a really excellently made combat pant. So those are my thoughts kind of when it comes to the UF Pro Striker combat pants. Now, some people are probably going to get really angry, because I know a lot of people are really obsessed with these pants, but I gotta kind of call the shots as I see them and kind of how I see everything going. So guys, those are my thoughts on kind of some of the combat pants that we're seeing here. I know this was somewhat of a quicker review and more of an overview, but in the future videos, we're going to be delving much more in depth into specific comparisons between combat pants. Hopefully this will kind of help you guys decide what type of combat pant you might need. For most people, you're probably not going to need a really in-depth review, but in any case, they'll probably be coming in the future, especially from Beyond, who I'm going to be working with a little bit. So as far as my declarations, UF Pro, Beyond, Crye, and Drifire were all sent to me by the company. So if there is a bias, there's a bias towards all of them. So take it for what it's worth. I try to be as unbiased as possible. Guys, I do appreciate you watching these videos and supporting me as much as you have. So stay tuned. We have a lot more coming. And ultimately, I have nothing left for you today. If there's one thing I could recommend to you, it would be to wear sunscreen. You don't want to get skin cancer and die. Skin cancer is not cool. So protect your skin and all that stuff. Take care, guys. Appreciate the support. I'm out.